Surprisingly, two official spokespeople for Donald Trump and the Republican Party agreed to step into the proverbial ring with progressive commentator and professional debater Mehdi Hasan, and it went about as well as you'd expect, with Mehdi ruthlessly humiliating these losers and hitting Trump where it hurts, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends. Got several clips to show you here, and I would say you should watch the entirety of Head to Head on Al Jazeera, which is a debate interview panel hosted by Mehdi Hasan regularly. I think it's once or twice a month, something to that effect. And in this situation, he actually interviews an official spokesperson for the Trump campaign and a Trump advisor, Adolfo Franco, a man whom I've never heard of, even though I'm a big political junkie. Perhaps you have, but I had not. As well as another Republican spokesperson. The whole thing is about 50 minutes long, and Mehdi Hasan is in top form. And again, surprisingly, this guy agreed to be grilled by Mehdi, and it went about as well as you'd expect. But I want to focus on a segment or two in which Mehdi really hits Donald Trump where it hurts the most and talks about something that I think is not nearly talked about enough by Democrats and surrogates of the Harris campaign.
Yeah, but your guy can't get past 45% electorally. That's how much of the country doesn't want him.
Since we're throwing in numbers, hold on, Adolfo, you like polls so much. CBS YouGov poll from September. Big majority, 64 to 68% of voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the key swing states, say Kamala Harris has the mental and cognitive health to serve as president. Only a minority of voters say the same for Trump. A majority of Americans in swing states do not think your guy has the mental cognitive health to be president.
Well,
you love citing polls.
I love
what do you want to say about that one?
I'll cite the polls right back.
Go on.
And every one of these states, either the president or Mrs. Harris is ahead within the margin of error.
That's not what I said. I said they don't think your guy has cognitive mental health to be president.
But if the majority of people in those states are voting for him, I don't think they're viewing that as either a serious question.
Maybe they're blind partisans. Let us bring in...
So, again, you can see that this guy, who is a representative of Donald Trump, is being triggered by the fact, and it is a fact, that Donald Trump is the oldest presidential candidate in American history, number one. Number two, the polls relentlessly, consistently show that more Americans than not think that Donald Trump is mentally unfit and physically unfit and incompetent to be president compared to Vice President Harris. She beats him on mental fitness. She beats him on physical fitness. She beats him on competence in poll after poll after poll. When President Biden was the presumptive Democratic nominee, all Republicans wanted to talk about was how Biden was perceived as being mentally unfit to be president. Now that the shoe is on the other foot, they are desperate to sweep it under the rug and to not talk about it. And quite frankly, in my humble opinion, it's not talked about nearly enough by Democrats. I understand that we have a lot to talk about when it comes to Donald Trump, given that he is a uniquely flawed candidate, but more time should be spent on whether or not Donald Trump is mentally fit to be president. In a previous video that I did, I talked about how Trump's own top general, General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under the Trump administration, said that he thinks that Donald Trump is mentally unstable. This is important, okay? And unlike President Biden, Trump can't defend his record. Right? Biden could at least point to a robust executive and legislative record suggesting strong executive and legislative competence. Trump can't do that. But note what this guy says. Well, okay, fine. You throw the polls in my face, I'll throw the polls in your face, despite the fact that a majority of Americans think that my guy is mentally unfit to be president. The polls are still within the margin of error. But that was also the case when President Biden was the presumptive nominee. Even when Biden was the presumptive nominee, even when after the disastrous debate, Biden was not outside the margin of error in the vast majority of polls. And yet you still made that criticism against him. Do you see the hypocrisy and the inconsistency, the staggering hypocrisy and inconsistency? If it's all about polling within the margin of error, then you should have never complained about mental fitness to begin with, MAGA. But they know that Donald Trump is indefensibly bad on this subject, and they're terrified of it, so they try to change the topic. So a couple of things I want to point out, though, because Mehdi Hasan is correct. This is from a recent NBC poll. Harris's best results are on protecting immigration rights, abortion, having the necessary mental and physical health to be president, where she is up 20 points over Trump. Having the right temperament to be president, which I think also factors in very closely, up 16 points over Trump. When it comes to competence, being competent and effective, she leads Trump by 5 percentage points. Donald Trump is the mentally unfit candidate. And this hypocrisy was also exposed by one of the other panelists on this head-to-head panel, one of the few who was willing to criticize Donald Trump. This is what she had to say.
That you can sit up there and have a list of the things that Donald Trump has said read to you. And if Mehdi had changed the name and said, here, Adolfo, here are things that Joe Biden had said, you would have gone off about how Joe Biden needed to step aside and this is why he's cognitively delayed. Here's the thing, the difference between why Joe Biden left the race versus why your man will never leave the race or the stage for that matter until the American people drag him off of it in a few days. So the reality is that Joe Biden walked away because he believes in America, because he wants democracy to succeed, because he wants democracy and the people to have something moving forward. And he wasn't going to stand in the way of that. He wasn't going to allow his ego of needing the power of the presidency to stand between the people and possibly losing democracy.
That is the difference. So the fact of the matter is President Biden obviously would have preferred to remain the candidate. He still maintains that he thinks he would have beaten Trump. And certainly it was like pulling teeth, but his top advisors, Democratic surrogates, and wide swaths of the American people did not share his confidence in himself. So he was eventually persuaded to leave because he recognized he could not corral the confidence of his base and his supporters. All right. That was a decision that he made. There was no lever pulled. Nancy Pelosi could not force him from the race. George Clooney could not force him from the race. Nobody had the power. There was no 25th Amendment to kick President Biden out of the candidacy for the Democratic Party. He and he alone had to make that decision. And yes, even though he was pressured internally and externally pressured to do it, he made the decision. That is something which distinguishes President Biden from Donald Trump, who will not succumb to such pressure because he's such a malignant narcissist. This is the Cincinnatus principle that President George Washington embodied when he stepped away from power. President Biden did it as well. Donald Trump is incapable of doing so. Again, you should check out the entire exchange, the head-to-head conversation, because we could just cover the entire thing, but it's about 48 minutes long. Another thing, though, I wanted to show you from Mehdi Hasan was he was a recent panelist, not the host, but a panelist on BBC Questions, which came to the United States, specifically, I think, Philadelphia. And it also, had a panel of Mehdi Hasan, Malcolm Kenyatta, a Democratic representative from Pennsylvania, as well as a Republican, and this guy whose name escapes me, but he is a CNN contributor and a Trump spokesperson as well. And Mehdi Hasan had to lay out some quick fact checks, in particular about the southern border. And he got to use a Ben Shapiro zinger against a Ben Shapiro cohort in the audience, and it was pretty funny.
Mehdi, hang on, let other people
Three
speak.
very quick things. Number one, Malcolm's right. If you talk to the border agency, Border Patrol, not a liberal group, they will tell you that the numbers right now are lower than when Donald Trump left office. That is a fact. Take it up with Border Patrol.
On average, Mehdi, in fairness, on average, they have been a lot
Agreed,
higher
but right
under
now,
Biden.
we're talking about right now, they are lower than when Donald Trump left office. Those are the facts. And as conservatives like to say, facts don't care about your feelings. Number two, I would say that as
Very funny that he was able to drop this. Again, great stuff. That BBC Questions, it was spicy, it was fiery. I think I prefer the Al Jazeera one because it had more of Mehdi in it. He spoke less in the BBC Questions. But folks, this is important. Again, and I understand it's overwhelming when being an opponent to Donald Trump because Donald Trump has so many flaws that need to be identified and exploited and signal boosted that it's like you have your pick of the litter. But I do think mental fitness and mental competence are things worth discussing because it's not that Donald Trump is an intelligent fascist, an intelligent authoritarian. He's a 78-year-old buffoon. And he was a buffoon when he stepped into the political scene. He was an idiot in 2016. Now he's an idiot who is even more unhinged and diminished and in some sort of state of cognitive decline. These are things that need to be identified. And also, it emphasizes the hypocrisy and the double standards of MAGA, which is always fun to point out, even if they don't give a shit. So great stuff, great performance by Mehdi Hasan. He roasts Adolfo Franco is the guy's name. And then there was another one there who represented Republicans overseas. So he's basically part of a Republican, the official spokesperson of the Republican Party in their overseas chapter, because they also have a presence in the United Kingdom, not in British politics, but also I think to advocate for American Republican politics in other countries. And these people agreed to be grilled by Mehdi Hasan, and he did. He grilled them brutally and hit Donald Trump where it hurts, which is this idea of him not being a very stable genius. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.